Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and in this video I want to share my new player experience in New World, the new MMO from Amazon Game Studios. I do plan to cover my journey so far, and with that we will go over gameplay, crafting, the open world and sandbox feeling, the leveling experience, and finally loose ends. But before we get into the details, as a preview, I do want to share that this is my first new game in a very long time that I have actually enjoyed, and that I am genuinely excited about continuing to play. For me, this is a very difficult achievement because of the rarity of a game pulling me in like this, so I have to give huge props to New World for simply being that fun to play right now. But while the game is crazy fun, it is also not without its issues, so I will be covering those as well throughout this review. So, first of all, my friends and I did not predetermine the server we wanted to play on. So in the early evening of the launch day, we actually looked at the list of servers with low queues and picked one we thought had the best name from that list. I know a lot of players have chosen servers with like long to insanely long queue times, so I did want to give context that this strategy has not been that bad, and we've had maybe 15 to 90 minute, even sometimes 0 queues during peak US East time so far. So the game has been super stable with so far no disconnects, no crashes on my end, and no server issues. That said, I do think it sucks if people got stuck on like a server with long queues, and hopefully with transfers opening next week, other people can have better experiences here. I'll comment more on that with player population throughout this, but for now, let's go ahead and get to the early gameplay. And the first thing I did in the game, I actually traveled to a different starter zone to meet up with my friend. I was kind of shocked this was a little bit of a fun thrill. There is something just exhilarating about running through high-level enemies that took like half my health in one attack. But still, I think that experience would have been better if there was some way to group up and get essentially the same starting zone with people you want to play with. But moving on from that note, just like with my open beta impressions video, I found the combat surprisingly fun and engaging in this game. And for brief context, this comes from somebody who enjoys and strongly prefers classic MMOs with tap target and ability bar style combat. In New World, there is no class system. Your abilities are determined by your weapon, and certain weapons favor certain stats like strength, dexterity, intelligence, focus, and the such. So you will likely tend to go for a certain archetype for your character, but also for a single character, it is completely flexible and entirely your choice. Up to level 20, you can actually even respec your attribute points and respec your weapon ability points for free to test out stuff and find what you like. The entirety of this system I have enjoyed so far. It feels like I, as a player, have a lot of freedom to do what I want and build my character how I want, and then I can even switch on the fly if I want. In my early gameplay, it was fun to try out different things and find what I did and did not like. For example, I enjoyed the musket a lot in the open beta, but after longer playtime with it in the full release, it wasn't as exciting feeling, and I thought it was maybe something I'd only want to use every once in a while, which seems to be an option in this game. And I will say I was having more fun with the spear than in the beta, but actually I have been using more recently a strength build with a hatchet and warhammer, which are honestly probably my two favorite weapons in the game so far, and they are weapons you will see most of the background gameplay. And by the way, just a note on the background gameplay, if you see a little camera in the top left corner of the screen, that essentially means this is a sort of replay from my stream, because I don't record videos of my stream separately while I am playing, so I just have to actually take the stream video and put that in for the background gameplay. So I did just want to point that out, and otherwise there isn't really anything being hidden by that, and it's just a tiny corner, so hopefully that's not too annoying. Anyway, getting back on topic with the hatchet and warhammer, moving on from that, I do plan to eventually get back to trying a better spear at some point in the near future, maybe looking at a dexterity build. Also, when I am able to craft or get myself a nice armor set, I plan to try intelligence weapons out at some point, but based on my open beta, I didn't really enjoy them too much in what I've seen from them, and this from other people using them, I'm not entirely sure on that, which is quite unusual for me. But to go ahead and move on from the weapons, let's talk more about combat. And to help keep combat engaging in this game, there is active blocking and dodging, so these two mechanics are not passive like other MMOs. I think they really help each encounter in the game feel unique, and they add this burden of skill on the player, which is something I actually appreciate in this game. There are often times in New World where I either take a lot of damage or even die, and I end up thinking, oh, I could have played that better, instead of just like being annoyed at the game or just like feeling like I'm too underpowered to take on encounters in the game. So this is something at the moment that I quite appreciate. Having said that, I do think a good thing about this game is it is not very hard, at least at a baseline level, so I don't think it is something that is going to drive players away, at least hopefully not, and it's something I am appreciating right now, the mechanics with that. But moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about what facilitates this fun gameplay experience, and that is the world of New World. In my open beta review, I focus more so on the environmental world building rather than the content in the world. What I have so far really taken a liking to with New World is it feels like a true sandbox MMO. Essentially, as a player, I feel like I can do what I want, when I want, and how I want. Anything I do won't hinder my character progression, and it feels like anything I don't do also won't hinder my character progression, which is something that I have suffered issues from in other games, we'll say. Also, I do have one note on that because technically it seems main story quests are going to be required throughout this game. But anyway, this is a special feeling in an MMO that many have not given me the past few years. While I did play Final Fantasy XIV Online, that was kind of limited and I did really enjoy the game, it also felt like the main story quests were required and I felt pigeonholed into doing those as like the main thing of the game. Contrasting that with Guild Wars 2, I never enjoyed the combat and base-like gameplay of that game, and the world, I will say, felt oddly closed off, which that also could be because I haven't played that much the past few years, but it is something I noticed about the game. And then newer expansions of World of Warcraft and a lot of medium to high level content in the Lord of the Rings Online have both gone away from their early days of feeling like a true sandbox, especially with the requirement of story quests and often the requirement of zone or side quests especially. New World reminds me of the sandbox feeling of those two games that they had way back in the day that made me so drawn to them also way back in the day at first. So it's just something that I feel like I have missed lately, and to be honest, I never completely realized it until I got to playing New World. And let's go ahead and go over some concrete examples of what you can do in the game. So first, there are the main story quests, which I have to say these have been necessary up to this point because you need it for your Azoth staff at the very least. And while I can praise a lot of the questing content in this game so far, I also have to admit my least favorite part of my entire time in the game, I think, has been the main story quest, largely due to a lot of back and forth, and I think it's been long distance traveling for that has just felt annoying rather than engaging and fun compared to a lot of other stuff in the game. But moving on, second up, there are a lot of side quests, and they seem to be completely optional, but some of them have had nice rewards, and they are easy to do in my experience, and often they line up with other things you can and likely will want to do. Also, these side quests are not fetch quests, and they are not do stuff around town type quests. At least I have not run into any yet, so that has been really nice that they're not that style. Third up, we do have town projects, which are basically a type of side quest that appear to help a zone settlement. As a new player, I don't really know too much about this yet, but what I do know is getting zone XP, or whatever that is actually called, can give you boosts such as increased reputation gain in the zone, they can give you increased craft speed, or for the settlement side of things, something like increased faction reputation, or increased storage said capacity, it looks like. Fourth up on the list, there are faction missions. These are basically quests that are for your faction and give you faction currency, reputation, and of course boosts such as XP and gold. You can do with these 3 PvE missions and 3 PvP missions at a time, and they seem to be infinitely repeatable, which is a really nice thing that they are not time gated like many other games I know like to do with systems like this. So I really appreciate that not being the case with New World with faction missions, no time gating there. And those 4 are essentially the main questing options that you have for content pretty early in the game. But one more thing to add to the list is gathering and crafting, which seems to be this huge part of the game. And even these have a bunch of subsystems. So with gathering, you have things like logging, mining, skinning, harvesting, and fishing. There are also numerous crafting professions and processing professions to create useful stuff from gathered materials. I will say both the gathering and crafting help make the gameplay of New World a lot more fun for me. Moving on, there is technically more content in the game, but again, this is what I have experienced as a new player in this video. For example, there is PvP in the game, and I have not gotten to that even though I'm planning on some limited open world PvP in the future. I also have not quite gotten to the instances, but I'm looking forward to see how those play out and group content in general in the game. So with what I have done, I am having a lot of fun, but I am also excited to see what other types of content New World will have in the future and how I will enjoy it. But let's go ahead and continue on this note of the new player experience, and I want to expand on that some more. Something that I think is important as a new player is how the game introduces you to things in the, especially in this game with it being sandbox and open world, how it introduces you to things in that. One thing I've really liked is the smooth progression of content options being introduced to you. The first few levels of focus is the main story quests and getting you to your zone settlement, and of course gathering and crafting. You get also introduced to a lot of variety of weapons for you to try early on as well, which has been nice. And then moving on around level 10, I believe you get introduced to your faction, and from there you can begin faction missions and that sort of stuff, which the faction missions are pretty simple to get a hang of, I found. Shortly before the missions, you actually get introduced to the settlement and its town board and its quests there as well, which I have found are usually passive things that you can slowly knock out while doing other things in the game. So as a new player, what this kind of culminated in is I never really felt overwhelmed or intimidated by content options, and importantly, I never felt forced to do or avoid a specific thing at any time. I also never felt like there were too many things given to me at once. This is something I have really appreciated throughout my time in the game. Nowadays, in the low level 20s range of levels at the time of recording this video, I feel like I've gotten in a good habit of my gameplay loop, and I feel like I've settled in with the content, and I don't think there's a better way to kind of say this other than it is simply really fun, and I want to savor this feeling in the game at the current moment. To talk about community and population throughout this journey, I first have noticed the game is not overpopulated. With the relatively small amount of players allowed on the server at once, this has actually helped the game not feel way too crowded. And at the same time, not having a dynamic layer system has helped the game world feel more lively and strengthen the community with other players. That said, compared to my main other MMO, Lotro, which I often praise for its community, I've ran into, say, more annoying players in this game, but it certainly hasn't been enough to make me not like playing the game as much. Also, at this point in the game, I'm nearing moving to my second main zone for my character's journey, and with this, I do have a concern with the item storage. In New World, your storage space is tied to your settlement that you put your items in. So for example, my storage in Monarch's Bluff, that's the first zone I started with, my storage there is exclusive to that zone, and when I move to my next zone, I will have to rebuild my storage or slowly take items from the old zone to the new one. And right now, I am currently expecting this to be kind of annoying and an annoying inconvenience, but this is something I'll have to come back and evaluate in future reviews as I get more experience and just get more game experience, that is, and get higher level with more character experience. But alright, at this point in the review, I want to go ahead and hit the odds and ends that I have not covered as we have gotten to the main new player experience and my thoughts on the gameplay. So a lot of the things here are minor things in general that haven't really impacted my overall feel and enjoyment of the game on an individual level, but I think it is still fair to cover them and just inform you of what I think. So for the first thing here, I actually want to go way back and talk about character creation. So in character creation, there are a lot of customization options, which I like, and I think that's a great thing, but I personally never actually found, this is specific for me, but I never found a face option that I like. So I kind of ended up choosing a face that I least disliked. But honestly, I really shouldn't have to choose an option based on that. Instead, I think I should choose any option, but here a face option because I like it. So I would love to see more face options and just general customization options in the game for your character creation process. But also, speaking of character customization, perhaps the bigger thing I want to talk about here is there's no barber type system in the game where you can change your character's looks. So right now, I actually have overall mixed feelings on this, but it seems logical that you could change your character's hairstyle, facial hair, and that type of stuff over time. At the very least, you could change those. And currently, as a new player, I haven't really gotten to a point where I want to change my character's looks already, but I feel like in the future, it is something that I might want to do, so a barber feature I think could be nice. Let's go ahead and shift topics and cover dying in the game, and not like armor dying. So when your character dies, I don't think it really has that much impact, to be honest. It will damage your armor, it's kind of super cheap and easy to repair though. And otherwise, it just sets you back in your travels. I feel like I'm not really punished enough for dying in this game, and that seems like an odd thing to say, but there are kind of two issues created here. One, it creates this odd feel in the gameplay where I just honestly don't really mind too much if I die. And two, it enables this odd strategy where sometimes dying can be your most efficient or best move while out and about. And the latter is something that is kind of annoying to me in other games, such as Lotra, where dying can sometimes be thought of as like a free port to town so you can save traveling time because there is no other real punishment. In MMOs, I never want to intentionally get my character killed like on purpose, so I think it sucks that it can be an optimal strategy in this game. And to remedy this issue, I actually would love to see extra punishment for dying in New World so that death basically becomes more meaningful, because right now I just don't feel like it's all that meaningful. But speaking of meaningful, one thing I love about this game is how meaningful travel is. In many other MMOs, traveling is seen as an inconvenience and something you essentially want to skip and just get it like done and over with. However, with New World, there are no mounts, which makes traveling by foot feel both immersive and meaningful. While I was indifferent towards mounts in my beta experience, as a low-level player, I am actually currently leaning towards favoring having no mounts in this game, so I like it as it is basically. But with this note on traveling, I do want to comment on fast traveling. So fast traveling in New World is done at shrines and settlements, and it costs Azoth. I am at the point in the game where I don't really know the economy of the special Azoth currency, but what I can say is it seems to be very easy to cap it. So I feel like I can spend it whenever and just fast travel like it's nothing, basically. Maybe this is a good thing that you can fast travel over very large distances basically freely, but at the same time, I'm kind of getting this feeling that it will start to take away the reward of meaningful travel as I continue to expand to new zones and essentially cover larger areas in the game. So like a couple other things in this review, I think it is something I'll have to evaluate again at a later time. But with that, that is the last thing I had to cover, and we have finally covered a thorough review of my new player experience and just general thoughts on New World gameplay and leveling so far. As pointed out, I do plan to continue on with videos like this with my updated thoughts and reviewing my new experiences as I level up and play through more content in the game. I am hoping these videos may be helpful for some people to decide if they want to buy this game or even just learn more about it, and for subscribers just to learn about my experiences with the game. If you have any thoughts on New World or any feedback on this video, please do share those in the comments below. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something useful, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content, and thanks for watching everyone.